So recently, I saw a comment under one of the videos from my favorite YouTubers, and it said in bold and capital letters, "God hates you, gays," although he was transgender. And not just one, but many such comments led me to question, why is there so much negativity surrounding what should possibly be called the next revolution in human civilization? Well, after some research, I found out that it's not just one, but several religious institutions that believe God does not approve of humans modifying themselves from the social order that He Himself has set. Hate to break it to them, but several deities worshipped as gods for centuries together are proof that gender is way past the genitals one possesses. Gender is where one's mind lies, what one contributes to society, and spiritually, what one's soul calls for. My name is Sharicka Zutshi, and I'm from a country called India, where being from the LGBT community is still considered taboo, and the LGBT rights scenario is heavily argued upon, but not enforced. And I shall be trying to find the answer to the question, does God really hate the gays? Let's find out. In a world where loving someone who is similar to you in body but also in soul is considered a sin, a community that has concepts of homosexuality, gender fluidity, and justified intellectual conversation on the same. Sounds like a utopian dream, right? Wrong. The source for this way of thinking actually dates back to some of the oldest cultures in the world. In Islam, it has been explicitly stated in the Quran that homosexuality is unnatural and prohibited. However, pre-modern Islamic people actually treated this community better than some do today. In the Bible, the same has nowhere been explicitly stated. However, when the Bible is taken as a whole, different interpretations and thought process of people regarding the same topic leads to formation of different opinions, and hence this topic is still disputed. However, when debating on this topic, we tend to ignore some of the oldest cultures that were actually the basics of early human civilization. And one of those is a way of life that dates back to centuries, Hinduism. Being a Hindu myself, I have to agree that one of the most interesting aspects of Hinduism has got to be its mythology, with millions of gods and millions of models to imbibe. However, due to it being so vast and so inclusive, but also complicated, it is not uniformly followed or believed by all regions and sects that follow Hinduism. Hence, some people may not agree with everything I have to say today. My definition of God may not agree with your definition of God. However, to avoid all conflict and offense to anyone in this video, let's assume that the myths I shall be talking about are stories that our ancestors wished would last their life and times. Do you know where the word hermaphrodite comes from? It comes from Greek mythology. It comes from the name of the son of Hermes, the messenger god, and Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, Hermaphroditus. No one has any right to call these people anything less than beautiful. They're descendants of Aphrodite after all. Let's delve into Hindu mythology now. Our first myth deals with the topic of gender variance in the illustration of a god. This god was Ardhanarishvara, also known as the Lord who is half woman. It is said to have been the union of Lord Shiva, the destroyer god of the Holy Trinity in Hinduism, and his consort, goddess Parvati. However, in some versions of the myth, it is also known to be symbolic of the union of their powers and not themselves as such. However, this gives us something else to note here. A goddess is being portrayed as not only an equal, but a completing power to the depiction of a god. Take notes, patriarchy. Our next myth revolves around the female form of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is said to have taken a female form to marry the demon Aravan so that he gets to experience the love and affection of marriage before he is sacrificed. The members of the transgender or Hijra community marry a Ravan and mourn his death as his wives to this day in the memory of that union. Our next myth is very interesting. It not only deals with the gender fluid nature of Vishnu at several instances in many myths, but also with the varied sexuality exhibited by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was said to be attracted to the female form of Lord Vishnu as Mohini. Mohini's primary objective was to lure the Amrita or nectar of immortality away from the demons, and she succeeded. However, Lord Vishnu was chased by Lord Shiva, and eventually, on embracing her, Lord Shiva ejaculated, and from this semen was born Ayyappa, who is also known as Ayoni Jada, or the one who is not born from the vagina. In some versions of this myth, Lord Shiva knew of Lord Vishnu's true nature, but in others he did not. Our next myth depicts a similar kind of behavior from Lord Shiva. Lord of Fire, god Agni, was said to have accepted Shiva's semen orally to give birth to the god of war, Skanda or Kartikeya. Leaving the Trinity aside, Hinduism has a patron goddess for the Hijra community, or as mentioned earlier, the transgenders. She was Pachuramata. And Pachuramata is shown to have weaponry in one hand and a book in another, to depict not only her powerful but strong nature and her intellectual capacities, making her no less than any other god or goddess, and making her followers just like her, no less than any other human. An interesting aspect has been observed among the water gods across different cultures. All of them, if not most of them, have depicted some sort of fluidity in their choices of gender and their choices of partners. What could be the reason for this? Something that is even more interesting is that this could be attributed to the fact that water bears nonconformity to shape, just as they bear nonconformity to the norm. In ancient Egypt, the god of the Nile, Hapi, was depicted using female breasts, but also male genitalia. Confusing, isn't it? But this gives us two conclusions. Number one, that the transgender form was acceptable in ancient Egypt. And number two, that perhaps Hapi's depiction was a resultant of the role the Nile played in the lives of ancient Egyptians. How, you ask? The Nile was a mother to them, in terms that it gave birth to their civilization, technically, and a father to them, because it provided them with food in terms of irrigation for their crops, and of course nourishment to sustain their civilization. Well, another aspect of same-sex relations in ancient Vedic literature is the relations between the god of the ocean Mitra and god of waters Varuna, who, by the way, are often termed as icons of intimacy between males. They are obviously associated with same-sex relations, but also with the two lunar phases. It is said that when they unite and deposit their seed in one another, these lunar phases alternate. This could explain why in several sects that follow Hinduism, the new and the full moon nights are often discouraged times for procreation, as they're associated with unusual types of intercourse. In the Bhagavad Puran, it is said that Mitra and Varuna have had children by means of non-vaginal sex. How is this possible? It is said that Mitra and Varuna discharged their semen in water pots in the presence of a heavenly nymph or an apsara, Urvasi. And from these water pots were born sage Vashishta and sage Agastya. This seems like an ancient equivalent to surrogacy, doesn't it? To bring in an all-female perspective, we have 13th century Kashmiri text, Jayadratha's Haricharita Chintamani, which says that Ganesha's origin was all female, as he was born by Parvati's elephant-headed handmaiden Malini, who gave birth to Ganesha after swallowing Parvati's menstrual blood, which was flowing in the Ganges. We have several lesbian themes in mythology as well. An example being the Greek goddess of the hunt, Artemis, who took in several female lovers. We also have examples depicting that sexuality was looked upon as a spectrum, not an option. And this was the goddess Athena of wisdom, who depicted asexuality and never took a lover. A very important story from ancient Egypt is that of Iphis, a woman, who changed her gender to a man for her lover, Ianthe, a woman. This shows that gender identity and gender by birth were in fact looked upon as separate entities. It is also said that Apollo, the powerful god of the sun, was said to have been a lover of Hymen, the god of marriage, a male deity. Then who are we to stop marriage between those who do not follow the norm? These instances of mythology just give us one message, and that is that we have to change our way of thinking. If we are intolerant, we shall create an intolerant world. In the words of Carl Jung, the similarities in human chain of thought, despite the geographical boundaries, arise from our collective unconsciousness. And this is proven right given the mythologies we tackle today are from lands scattered across thousands of miles. And in some ways, our ancestors have proved to be far more open-minded and inclusive than our current society is. Love for them, or even lust, was not about how one was born, but how one felt. I call upon the people today to break free from the rigidity of the social order that we ourselves have created. And let us rid humanity of the fear of nonconformity. Let a man love a man, let a woman love a woman. And let love be of body for one, but soul for another. And let us look back tomorrow and say that, yes, we created a better world. A world where no one is robbed of their life because they chose to love. A world where no one is afraid to express themselves. A world where gender is not an MCQ question, but a spectrum of opportunities. Let us create a world where everyone takes pride in themselves and their individuality, just as our ancestors did, hundreds and thousands of years ago. I think we've answered our question today. God does not hate the gays.